Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome students. Today we are going to conclude this module on sustainable development and mine closure. We have discussed about what is this sustainability, what is the sustainable development goals, and also in our previous modules we have discussed this what exactly the mine closure, its responsibility, objectives, and then extents. Now coming to this, one important area of mine closure is a policy and legislative framework. Every country, they have got their own regulatory doctrine within which they allow they follow a particular procedure. So to do a mining activity in any country, we will have to follow those procedure, but at the same time, as we have seen that there is a United Nations has given this 17 sustainability goals. So that combining that, we will have to develop a framework by which that mine closure will be coming up with a sustainable, let's say, goal fulfillment. So that's under that our today's discussion we will be covering three main concepts. That is, what is your sustainability development goals we have discussed, we will just touch upon it, and the asset or capital sustainability. What are the assets, that is, what is the capital required, different type of, on the basis of which what we will be investing so that we can get this sustainability. Whether the sustainability is economically viable, that will be depending on what type of capital or what type of asset will be required for doing those which are planned for your post mine closure sustainability part. And for that we will also touch upon briefly what is extended producer responsibility. This is a concept of how the polluters pay. That means if you are doing the operations, how you will be doing, we will be discussing about that. And that basic things which the main keyword is sustainability development goal, and we earlier also we discussed about the triple bottom line, and then our main thing is the framework that will be followed by a particular governance. So after going through this lecture, you should be able to identify the steps required for developing policy for sustainable development after mine closure. You should be able to explain how conflict resolution is required for sustainable development, and also you should be able to describe how governance through legislative framework of triple bottom line leads to a sustainable development. So these are the basic things which we are targeting to learn these things. So as you know already that this our 17 sustainability goals, namely that no poverty, zero hunger, that is your good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, then your affordable and your clean energy for all whoever are there. Then you will have to have the decent work and economic growth, then that's maintaining a constancy in that. Then industry innovations and your infrastructure, how that will be exactly achieved through reduced inequalities, that is the gap between the haves and have nots to be reduced. Then sustainable cities and your communities, that whatever that now townships, whatever the cities are coming up, whether they will be sustaining their amenities, facilities, and in future. Then responsible consumption and production, that means whatever we are consuming now and then whatever we are producing now, it should not affect our future generation. Then the climate action is the first thing. We cannot go on impacting on the climate to make it change, and so that it will not, life will not be sustainable. Then the life below water is another thing, that is for the oceans and all, their lives is also is a concern. Then life on land, but in our how planet Earth could be maintaining as a habitable place. Then this peace, justice and strong institutions, that is how the people are living around. It will be depending on how peaceful the society is, that is for unnecessary issues, forgetting about the sustainable goals. If people make agitations, if people make this through their institution, that is where there are weak institutions and where there are harmful institutions, they will be affecting peace adversely, and our sustainability goals that has been assigned will not be received, because that for that, to no poverty or no hunger, for that we will have to create an work environment. And now in that, if some non-issue and some of the emotional issues being brought by institutionally, if it affects, then we are deviating from the sustainability goals. And also we will have to the partnerships, that is when we talk about, that is development with equality, with everyone, for everyone development, sabke saath sabka vikas, that is the your partnership for the goals. So these are the things, and for that what is required? A regulatory framework. Regulatory framework means our parliament will have to give certain acts and regulations by which exactly these goals can be achieved through certain actions. That actions must be developed on the basis of some policy, and that policy is basic, that is developed from the mission and vision of an institutions, of a community, of a country. So in that, what exactly to be delivered and what will be the policy targets, and that will have to include the objectives of the private sector, their participation is important, how the public will be engaged into that is important, and how the local self government will be included, that is for the inclusive development. So I have said here in a monotonous way, of course, that what are the goals and then what exactly the country needs to do. But when we talk about this, how we will align it with our mine closure, so that after mining this can be achieved. For that, a policy and regulatory framework is very, very important, because this framework of a country, that legislative framework, it will be addressing many issues like licensing and regulatory approval and permitting. So there is a certain way that whether you can do a mining or not, if you can do mining, up to what extent you can do, if you are doing mining, with that exactly how you will be interacting with the existing facilities there, how the mining, and then say for the society, if there is any conflict, how it will be regulated. For that, this regulatory framework comes. Also, how the funds and the policy instruments, that is very important for doing that business, that whether the fund is coming from a public participation or a government sanctions, or it is exactly you are getting different sources for your capital management. So formulating that, designing that, implementing, managing, and how the government will be collecting the levies, how the government will be giving subsidies, all these things are through a policy and legislative framework of a country, and that framework must support a mechanism. If you have thought of that the capital will be assessed by a certain system through the banks, through the private bodies, or through certain rules and regulations, for that a mechanism is necessary in the country, and that the regulatory framework will have to make. Then regulatory impact assessment, that is whenever you have got some regulations, with that whether the managing the regulatory change will be effective or not, whether that how will you monitoring that support. So for example, that sometimes that standards and regulations, these are so important. I give you an example that in our sponge iron making, they buy iron ore from the mines and then they produce sponge iron and they import or export this or sell in the foreign market. For the selling it, they will be paying some sale tax. From the earning, they will be paying some income tax. So all these things, the business they are doing in the country based on the resources available in the iron ore. Now, that if you are importing or you are bringing the iron ore from the mines to your plant, because that plant is giving jobs to the people, plants is serving the society, so they will be having, so railway may be giving a concessional freight, that is from there you give at a particular cheaper rate, because railway is also government. But if you are bringing the iron ore from the mines to sell it abroad, that is to you are going only a profit making purposes, then the railway will be charging it differently, because you are making profit out of it. If the regulatory and legislative framework is not there, that the plant must maintain the material balance, how much has been brought from the iron ore, that iron should be giving it how much sponge iron, for that how much residue will be developed, and then that residue where it will be kept. If the country does not give a specific regulations and standards for it, what happens in India, some company may bring that iron ore from the at a cheaper rate of transportations to its plant, and without producing sponge iron, they take these things to the export and then they export it. Then how the government loser, how the society loser, but some people are doing, that is in between trading. So such type of things are happening in our country, and because there are loopholes in the legislative framework, in the how the things are done. So that's why when you are studying mine closure planning with a sustainability goals, you will have to know that what is the legislative framework, and there you will have to study. It is the academics who can find out that where things going, and for that the research is required. But those type of research may be certain government or because of certain institutions, they may not encourage and they may not reveal the real picture. And there comes that again the societal environment, how will you be managing, but the knowledge and your academic expertise in that should be there. So that is why you are studying this subject, you may take this as a point that how the regulatory impact should be assessed. If it is certain places where there is no regulations, how the country, the society and our sustainability goals may get impacted. I think you have understood this. Now, the sustainability framework is a way to organize a thinking about sustainability as well as inform planning, management and evaluation of activities in order to achieve and improve sustainability goals. Because sustainability goals, the 17 goals are very well thought and very well planned, and the way it is to be given. But thing is that by putting a goal, it will never give you the results. For the goal, you will have to have the country's regulations, you will have to have the actions, and you will have to have an activity schedule, and for that you will have to manage the resources, you will have to manage the capital, you will have to manage the manpower, you will have to train the people, you will have to develop the skill. So that is where exactly goal has been given, but the country, the stakeholders, they will have to go on working on it. So just as summary steps here, in a class we cannot discuss all aspects and all avenue, but I am giving you wherever you are having an interest, you please go in and follow it up. That is exactly the different stages for developing that policies, that how the country will develop policy for achieving those sustainability goals. For that, we will have to identify the needs for policy. For maintaining the sustainability goal after mine closure, do we have adequate policy within the mining companies, within the mining governance in the Ministry of Coal and Ministry of Mines? Do we have a prescribed policy? And then if it is there, we will have to identify it. Then determining the person, institution, groups who will be responsible to lead? Having a policy alone will not do. After you find that yes, there is a policy is there or a policy to be developed, then you will have to find out that which people, which organization, which institute exactly enact that policy, who will develop the action plans against that policy. This is everywhere. When that new education policy has come, now after that policy, who is developing the action plans, who is exactly making the activities, who is exactly planning for the funds required? That is the things. How after a policy you have to channelize the activities, then you will have to develop an information base for relevant data and rules. This is vital, where as a student of mind closure planning, as a knowledge worker, you will have to come out to get this knowledge that what is required, what type of information base will be they requiring, and how you will be acquiring those data. Whatever the data science says, before going to study information technology and data science and then data analytics, you will have to find out in your domain what information is required. If your domain cannot find out what is required and how that will be used, data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning will have no meaning. You will have to do this first, and then you will have to incorporate those advanced developments. Conducting peer review of a draft policy. Whenever, suppose now on a mind closure, a policy is there, just like our, I talked to you earlier that our CMPDI has developed our mind closure plan and given some policy, companies have got policy, but for that, we will have to make a peer review by bringing the experts in, make a white paper, do a study, that is important, and then involving important stakeholders in the policy developing. Now, when that policy has been developed, during the developed you can have the different stakeholders, or otherwise when that policy has been made, it may be have to revised based on the how the different stakeholders interact with that. For that, there are system in the minds, you know that how the public hearing is done on the basis of a policy, a public hearing, and then the action plans, and then that exactly activity starts. So that procedure is there in India. The following appropriate approaches for finalize the approved policy. That is where exactly the societal survey which is carried out in any minds, that your CSR group, then their environmental management group, they do conduct this societal survey, they conduct the public hearing. Whenever any action is to be taken, they take the people into confidence so that to get the social license to work remains. And after that, you will have to determine what produces the required to be developed, that what procedure, in which way you will be doing, and then define the implementation strategy. Once this whole thing is done, your plan is there, now you need to implement, and there is again a different study you can do for what should be the strategy for this. Strategic planning is another part of things which you may be studying in your while you are developing your that is a competence to be serve the industry. This is not the degree that the university will be giving you. It is exactly you will have to develop your competency, and that you should be career ready, and for that only this type of courses. I prescribed you earlier also some other courses you take, so that you become a career ready for a specific goal and specific work. And that one is there, the implementation strategy. In that, if you study some of the implementation strategy of different companies, how they are doing in the mining field, from there you can find out that what type of skill is required, and at your age you can easily earn that skill by different men. Today, because of the online and the MOOC available, you can take different courses, you can interact differently, and you develop yourself the confidence in doing this mine closure planning or the post mining activity management, and specifying the monitoring, reviewing and revising methods, because any implementation goal we cannot say always as a perfect things, and then in a mining system it is all nature dependent, and there is so many heterogeneity and so many variations. Some people say that exactly for the maintaining the quality of coal while supplying and all that thing, that a particular grade will be given, on that basis an agreement is made. it is somewhere basically it is wrong, because the whole seam itself, the coal production process itself, it's the coal is grade is subjected to variations. So that's why the whole pricing GCB values, whether can it be given as a predetermined, in that case what type of total your statistical analysis is required to determine a particular seam's grade, and then this is, but instead of that there is a certain system of our monitoring and reviewing and revising, that is whether it is the coal quality, whether it is your mine closure plan, or whether it is your calendar plan of the mines or the environmental management, you will have to have a monitoring, and that is why you will have to develop that skill. What are the instruments used for getting certain signal of changes, and that on the basis of that signal of change, how you can take up action, what type of remedial measures you will be taking, what type of protective measure you will be taking, or what type of preventive measure you will be taking, and by that only you will be revising sometimes that whatever you are doing, the methods and all that thing need to change. So that's why a instrumented and smart monitoring is essential. So I think you have now understood that what are the different stages and steps involved, and we have already told you about the triple bottom. The triple bottom, it is exactly that how your societal, your economic and environmental, these three things, where that our environmental goal, our societal goal and our economic profitability making goal, these three goals when they combine together, that is if it is fulfilled, then we say it's sustainable. That is what is exactly the Elkinson's the triple bottom line. That in the triple bottom line there was another things came up, that is called sometimes the fourth sphere. As a governance sphere, it was added over there in this system. Now there exactly, for making our post mining activity sustainable, we will have to give the planet a better environment through our natural resources should be used with preventing pollution and then maintaining the biodiversity. That is the things will have to be done in the mine closure related, but all these things can be done if it is a profitable business you are doing. Then only if you are having a growth, profit, cost saving and you do R&D, then only you will be knowing whether some actions for biodiversity can be done, and that's why this part, your economic and environment, their common functions will be giving you an environmental economics. That economics and environment, that environmental economics will look into energy efficiency, renewable fuels, supply and this incentives, subsidies, and the green technology will be developed. So this should be possible if you are planning the mine and the mine closure business is done properly. Similarly, the societal economics is there, the societal environment is there. This environment, the society is having their standard of living, their education, their job and their equal opportunity they are looking for. And the environment, you know already this natural resources, that's why whether the conservation policy is there or not, whether environmental justice is there or not, whether global stewardship is there or not, this is that interaction of the society and environment, and if that is there, they will be contributing to sustainability. Similarly, when society and economics, their things will have to have a business ethics. As the example of iron ore going instead of the sponge iron to the export from the country, that means there is a business ethics is getting affected. In our engineering curriculum, as we do not have much on this, say mine closure or of this type of needs of the society is not brought in. Similarly, engineering ethics is not there in our engineering curriculum, though every engineer when they go to the job they find, because in our society somehow or other, instead of having our so many religious organizations, so many our moral polishing, but instead of that, when we do business, I think every Indian has got that experience that how it goes, whether there is a all business are clean business, all systems wherever the transactions are taking place, whether the transaction transparency that has been planned well. Wherever there is no transactional transparency, there is a hide and seek, there could be certain issues of ethics, and that business ethics, if the societal and economic goals, these two bottom lines, if they are mixed together, then only you can get a fair trade. All trades may not be fair. The government may even sometimes indulge in giving a favor to some company, that whether there were no other people, then sometimes the policy itself you debar from somebody to participate. Our country were having manufacturing base for mining machinery, but for all these years, for more than 50, 60 years, we were not having, that is that if we are to buy any machine from our Indian manufacturer, they will have to compete with the external manufacturer whether their machine has been used somewhere or not. That they need to certify that they have provenness certificate were necessary, and by that only. So that means our BEML, can they ever manufacture the 270 tonner dumper and to sell it to any Indian buyer? They will have to prove that their provenness in other. That means they will have to sell and develop a new machine, and they will have to sell it abroad or somewhere, then only they will be able to sell in India. So that type of policy exactly, can there be a fair trade? So that means our regulatory things were inducing that our certain business cannot grow up in our country. So that is why that when our social and economic aspect will have to be seen, our policy also will have to be aligned with that. Similarly, our workers' benefits, that whatever is there, the type of the benefits are given, sometimes if that our ethics are not there, even the workers will take the benefit, but they will not do their duties. So that's why that, because that comes in from our primary education, we are not employing, we are not creating a primary teacher's job of very high salary, so that they can induce good social thoughts amongst the children, so that the society, our workforce, they become ethically strong. If they cannot be there, then it will be there. That's why from the triple bottom line, when we bring into the governance as a fourth sphere, we will have to look into the things in a little bit differently. But when we are going to implement our sustainability development goals after the mine closure, these issues will have to be brought in. So next is this, your social, economic, environmental and political, that governance parts come in, and these ones, how they can matter. Your social things, this is forms of collective identity and community, a social sphere is there, and then the economic thing is the economy versus the community is studied, and then environment is how the people are living with nature, and then the political is your how a social, the capacity of the communities, citizens, public participations, how that capacity has been built by social education, in educational institutions, training facilities, and then giving your economic things can be the performance, products and output. We will have to have a economic sphere. So a social sphere, an economic sphere, similarly an environmental sphere will be bringing your energy, matter, natural cycles, and then we will be getting the whole these things. Our political things will bring a political sphere or a governance sphere, which will coordinate, give the power and the governance. So this is the four spheres, and they will have to interact into for bringing the what is called your, will have to from the tree bottom line, bringing it together through a governance, and then we will be getting the natural capital, our human capital, our social capital, our economic capital. These four spheres will be coming, and these will have to be integrated, strategically planned for implementing. But while you are going to do that, society is bound to be conflict. That one of the things of governance will be coming, always there will be some people having a different idea, some people will be having a different idea. This he will say something, he will say something, there will be conflict, there will be a mass movement, there will be the growth and development will be at stake. So that's why What are those conflicts? There will be mostly asset conflict. Everybody wants that, they want that our economic growth and effectiveness, everybody will be looking for a particular asset. Then the social justice and equal distribution opportunities, they will find this is exactly becoming an injustice. There will be a conflict for that asset. Everybody will be liking to that. Sometimes all conflict is not only a quarreling. Conflict is also of interest, that which interest will be given a preference, that is also conflict. That conflict will have to be the conflict of interests. Your education department will be asking some money in the budget, and then your say transport department will be asking some money in the budget, and your say social welfare also asking for some money for the budget. They have got different interests. But thing is that if they are all in a unified, you can easily resolve and the asset can be developed. But if it is going in a different directions, there can be a conflict. So similarly, there will be a societal and the environmental, there will be a developmental conflict. That means whether you want to develop the forest for the forestry, or the forest for mining, or the forest for agriculture, forest for, or the combining all together, a agroforestry, a food forestry, a mining forestry. The forestry with mining, a combination, how it will have to be done. There the resolution, there is a, if the mining is coming in the forest land will be destroyed. If the that is your, if on the mineralized zone, if you develop a forest, then the mineral will not be available. Now there is a development conflict, that area how it will be done. Then we'll have to do, how we'll do environmentally friendly mining, because mining is a temporary job. And then when the environmentally friendly mining will be done, they will not be doing any permanent damage to the forest area. For that, whether the forest science has got developed, that how the forestry should be protected when they have given a lease, has been approved by the government procedure. After that, what are the policies, what are the principles, what are the actions the forest department has taken for the protection of the forest in the vicinity of mining. The post closure or mine closure development, it will have to look into what forestry department has done for their land, because when they have given a lease for mining, it is their responsibility at the border in the way how they are doing, because they have taken the camp of fund. The mining has been done giving certain money to them to protect their system. If they do not do, there is a development conflict. Similarly, environment and economic growth, there will be the resource conflict. That so this, when we talk of sustainability development goal, and then we want to put them towards this our mine closure and post mining liability, this is important, and we'll have to know about these conflicts, and then we'll have to do a particular framework. So here is a sustainable livelihood framework. You can see this diagram. This diagram gives what are the vulnerability context, that is what type of shocks may come, what type of trends, what are the seasonality, and then what are the livelihood asset. For your life support system, what are these things? You need different type of capital, that is your human capital, financial capital, physical capital, natural capital, and social capital. These capitals, they will be having exactly, either they will influence this, or they will be other issues like your transformation structures, processes, that different, they will be having an interactions with this capital, and by that they will be, this process will give the law, policy, culture, institutions, then preventive processes, and they develop the livelihood strategy, how exactly the livelihood will be sustaining after the mining or any business, how it will be. That strategy should be what you want to achieve. You want to achieve that livelihood outcome, that after the mine is closed, then also people will be getting more income, they will be increased well-being, their life will be better, that is their vulnerability to get affected will be reduced. That means they are well shielded and protected, nothing will happen. And then improve food security, that is they will have to get their food to eat, so that they can maintain their good health to work for sustaining themselves. And then this type of sustainability, when we will do it, then only these 5 assets will have to be managed: as I mentioned, that managing this human capital, social capital, natural capital, physical capital and financial capital towards our end achievement, then it is there. And these have been studied in the 90s also, when people were thinking of the millennium goal. That is that at that time in the 90s people thought of that eradicate extreme poverty. I am telling 20 years ago how the thinkers used to think at that time, achieve universal primary education. 20 years ago the world, that is the whole UN, wanted that the reduced child mortality, that is a combat HIV and AIDS, malaria in the 2001-2, you might have heard of that exactly, you may read in the history now. Ensure environmental sustainability, that was a thing. Like that a millennium goal were created, but for that what was the basic thing? Understanding the basic sustainable development. And today also, after 20 years of putting these goals, today also this is relevant. That is why I have brought these things from, you can read that what Gravicescu in his article, he has written very nicely analyzed that what was there at the millennium goal. And then sustainable productions and consumption in industrial ecology and eco-efficiency, that was to be made, and the keys to sustainability in practice. And today life cycle and associated environmental impact of a mined material, you know that sustainability, how it will be obtained after in the whole mine life cycle, which is starting from exploration to mining to processing, for production of metallurgical, then manufacturing to use phase and the end of life waste. That means whenever you are doing an iron ore mine, the life cycle of the iron ore, it is getting converted to steel, and that from that steel, whether it is that steel rod in your house or the steel plate in your utensils, then when you are at the end of use of it, when you discard, at that time also there are certain values. And when we analyze all these things, there you will be find at every stage certain things are there. So in your mining, exploration and mining, we are giving water pollution, air pollution, disturbed land and all, and then they will be producing your overburden tailings, the steel plant will be giving slag. So these outputs, they need to be exactly whether you can put it as a collect, recycle and reuse, that means whether you can bring circular economy there, that is how the waste can be converted to a wealth. And when we are thinking of the post mining or the mine closure, we will have to do this thinking that we will have to produce with less waste, use safer processes, incorporate new sustainable technology, promote the improved well-being of local community, curb emission and improve environmental stewardship. Whatever is said here, my dear friend, as a mine closure and sustainability planner, you will have to do this type of framework studies. You will have to develop such type of things. You can think of in a very small way. You can think that whether that in your college, you can take of your college as a entity for their what is the sustainability plan, how much waste they are generating over there, and there the end of life product maybe when you are going as an engineer and you are serving, and from there what exactly coming, there also if this type of framework can be thought of. So once you do that, that is the sustainable development framework is the overall what is that governance will be economic, environmental and social, that triple bottom line, it will have to give a inclusive growth, a green growth, a ecosystem service and a green jobs. If that can be created around the mining with the mine closure, that will be there. And in that, and in India we have got the legislative framework, you know, that is our environmental legislations which is done by your Mines Act 1952, Mines and Minerals, and that which has been amended. Of course, just to mention here, this has been managed in last 2-3 years, our all mining and development rule has been changed. So you can upgrade this table, bringing in that recent new rules have been introduced. That is your mining concession rule, these have been amended now. That is your mineral conservation and development rule, this MCDR in 2015 7, this has been now also amended. Now these amended matters, that is you can bring it, you can modify this table, and then there are many environmental legislations are there. Other than that, there are different government circular. So this legislative framework to be followed, and then only in our mines you can see if it is a northern coalfield, the Singrauli mines, it is lying like that. From here, that where you can think of in that one subsidiary of Coal India, they are having 14,873 hectares, and there exactly the dump body is 12.2%. But when the mine will be closed, all this about nearly 15,000 hectare land is an asset, and that one how to make it by the post closure mining activities. And then this is an example of how Balco, that is our one Vedanta group, there are such type of much more beautiful photographs you may see. That is what is done as a mine closure in Sesagua in Goa. You can see how it is done in that west, that is your in Joda mines in Tata Steel. I have said several times. Similarly, here you can see that how the overburden dump is converted to a paddy land, how does your pit has been converted to your rainwater harvesting, and how the villagers are getting rehabilitated on the mine land. So the post mining mine land can be a resource, and for that all the sustainability goals can be fulfilled by this. So once it is there, only thing you will have to keep your mindset towards this, that is, it is essential to know the legal and legislative framework. It will be, if you are mining is a global things, you may be working in Congo, you may be working in Australia, you may be working in South Africa, or you may be working in Alaska, because you are mining engineer and that you are working on the mine closure. Maybe you will be working in the Mishima Basin of Papua New Guinea. So there, whatever the legislative framework, you will have to know. Environmental management plan must align with the sustainability development goals with the ground situations and develop activity plans. And then mine closure planning and post mining land use should be developed keeping the legislative requirements. If you can do that, I am sure that you will be contributing to the sustainability development goals, as well as our mine closure will be in an effective way, and the people's mind, that mindset will change, that the mining is not a nuisance. Mining is a temporary use of natural resources for a permanent service of the mankind. Without mining, we cannot do wherever resources there. But yes, it is the responsibility to go for environmentally friendly mining with a closure integrated mining, and there you are working on this sustainable mine closure, which could be changing that actually the people will be developing a different respect for mining, and they will be looking into the mining industry as one of the most important, who will be engaging all mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering and computer science for the service of the nation and mankind. Thank you.